that is pretty close to iGEM as a whole, and also to synthetic biology, which is ethics, and social responsibility with how we present our projects or how we talk about science. And we sent you 2 questions yesterday, so you can prepare them. And these questions, we will go through them, and each of us will give a statement about what we think. But first, we need to introduce the teams. So I will each give you space to sort of talk about a little bit about your project or about you, and also about how you assess ethics in your team, or if you had any struggles or anything interesting regarding ethics during your project. And then we will touch up a little bit on the questions. So I will give you each 5 minutes to answer the question or give a statement, whatever you might think about or how it applies to your own project. And we will go through each of the team giving this statement, and then we're going to have a round for discussion. So if you have any thoughts or ideas during the statements, write them down or keep them. And then please write to the chat. And we will give you word, and you can sort of talk about what's your opinion about the other team statements, or if you have any more ideas or anything more to say about it. Then when the discussion sort of finishes, I will do a quick conclusion. And after that, we will go to the second question. We had this seminar last week, not on the same topic, obviously, but it took us around, I think, 70 minutes to go through both of the questions. So I think it should take us approximately the same time. So just so you know how long this might take. And at the end of the discussion, we will again make a quick summary of what we were talking about and finish off. So if that's okay with you guys, we are now streaming on YouTube, and we can go straight to the introduction of the teams. So first we have a team from Denmark, from DTU. I think Philip and Mohammed are joining us. Hey guys. And I know your project is about detection of snake venoms, but I don't know much more. So could you tell us more about your project and about the potential ethics stuff you were dealing with?
Yeah. So this is the snake envenoming is the most neglected tropical disease. We haven't considered as much as other things. We are developing a sensor that can detect particular things in the snake venom to determine what kind of snake bit you, to later administer the antidote, which is specific to the snake venom.
Yeah, so obviously the ethic part of our project lies in the social responsibility that is in creating, a solution to a problem that has been neglected. Because as Mohammed said, this is a neglected tropical disease. So we need to figure out a solution to this problem. And the whole thing itself, just the way it's being overlooked, is an ethics issue in itself.
Yeah. So what's the financial incentive for a company, for instance, to develop antivenoms or a detection system if you can't make money off it? So we would have to address this ethical issue and perhaps get big global associations as WHO and to finance this, because obviously people from rural areas would not have means to finance either the detection system or the antidote administration. So that's also why we also, in addition, try to make it really cheap, so everyone would have access to it. And
yeah, exactly, because that is one of the striking points of what we're working with. The methods are there, the medicine are there, but it's just at a price level that makes it unavailable to the whole third world, basically. So what we need to do is either to create awareness enough so that this area will get the funding it needs, or we'll need to create some new methods to simply reduce the price of snake venom detection.
That sounds super cool, guys. Okay, so the second team is from Netherlands, and I'm not sure if I can pronounce the name of the university correctly. So Groningen, and we have Jose and Sabine joining us. And you're doing diagnostics of tropical disease, if I'm not mistaken. So that must have a lot of ethical questions there. So could you tell us a little bit more about the project?
Yes, definitely. Okay, so we are from Wageningen University. It was a nice pronunciation though. And this year we are focusing indeed on tropical infectious diseases. And we want to detect those diseases with a novel biosensor. And we are mainly focusing on tropical diseases that are virus-borne and mainly arboviral. And for that, we are making a detection system. And yeah, as you said, many ethical questions come up there.
Yeah, because when you talk about potentially mortal diseases, you need to control the disease, also in an epidemiologic sense. So the main question is like, can you force diagnostic on people? And the answer is no. That's something we have already been told, and you can force quarantine and then offer the diagnostic as a solution. But even then, you have to make people feel safe about the diagnostic, both the results and the technology. And then is when the ethics come, and how can we modify our technology, considering how the people perceive the risk of GMOs and the risk of the GMOs being released in the environment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool guys. Thank you for this introduction of your team. The third team that is joining us today is from Germany, from Bielefeld. These guys are working with expanding the genetic code and putting their non-mechanical amino acids. So I think that's very close to ethics, and there must be a lot of questions around ethics there. So I think that's Christopher and Olga joining us today from Germany. So could you tell us a little bit more?
Hey guys, yeah, like you said, we are working on the expansion of the genetic code. So in a nutshell, our goal is to add an additional base pair to the DNA, which would basically create more possible codons, which we can then use to incorporate non-canonical amino acids into proteins. So usually the way it's done right now is that you simply recode one of the already existing codons, like one of the stop codons. But this doesn't give you a lot of flexibility, and you're also limited in the number of amino acids that you can incorporate, because it's limited by the number of codons that you can recode. So our goal is to again enhance the possibilities by introducing new unnatural base pair, which can then be used to create new codons. So a base pair would actually create 152 new codons, which could be reassigned and yeah, could be used to encode new amino acids. And there are like a couple of hundred non-canonical amino acids available. You can also complete amino acids from scratch, completely synthetic amino acids. So this allows you to yeah, create completely new proteins, to go even a step further when it comes to rational protein design and engineering. So yeah, this is what our project is about, basically.
And that's the crux also for our ethical approach, because if you do so, if you expand the genetic code with one pair of unnatural base pairs, I mean, you change the whole existing dogma of biology. So that's the part we are looking at, and we're looking at how can we take responsibility for doing so. What do we need to look into, and how does the whole environment or the people around us look into it, and can they even perceive why we're doing this? That's the questions we want to ask.
Also, like safety, how people feel about it, and like, do you think it's safe? So we are also looking into like biosafety issues, and also like trying to develop guidelines that can ensure this technology is used in a responsible way. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Thank you, guys. The fourth team here is from Israel. I think Yehuda and Nora are joining us today from Technion. And their team is working with kickstarting the immune system and curing allergies and autoimmune diseases, which I imagine is also quite stressful on the ethics part. So what about your project, guys? How is it with the project and ethics?
Hi, guys. Good to see you all. Like you mentioned, our project is a little bit out there because we're planning a human treatment with genetically
Okay, I can't hear.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, good.
Yeah, so vaccines are a small example today of the problems that we can encounter when we bring science to the general public who's uneducated about the mechanisms at play. And we're really excited to kind of contend with the future prospects of the scientific world as regards to medicine, which really seems to be heading towards the genetically engineered treatments. So we're really excited to work on that. As you mentioned, our project deals with autoimmune disease and allergies, and that's general.
We keep losing you guys.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we just, that's pretty much it. We're excited to work on the ethics of the program and genetically engineering bone marrow stem cells. That's our goal right now.
We express the membrane of the hematopoietic stem cells.
Sounds very interesting, and also interesting for the ethics part. And we have one other incomer to our discussion. Unfortunately, the Colorado State University couldn't make it, but thankfully we have iGEM team from Grenoble joining us instead. So I think Nicolas and Leon are joining us from Grenoble, and they are working with detecting kit for cholera. Grenoble. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear now. Perfect.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So in fact, we want to develop a bacterial detection kit. We decided to focus on cholera because it's a disease that shouldn't kill anymore. When the disease is early diagnosed, there's no problem to cure the patient. So we decided to combine engineering and biology. So first of all, we use a plasmid to detect a specific gene of a pathogenic strain of cholera. Plasmid contains also a fluorescence gene, and when it will be included in the bacteria, there will be a fluorescence if there's an interaction between the cholera gene and the plasmid. We developed a mobile application that can take picture and say if the patient is ill or not. This is the biological part. With other people from the team, we think that DNA extraction of cholera, enzymatical job, and the transformation should be included in all-in-one device, and we called it SnapLab. The device is currently in development, but the important fact is that the smartphone is the core of our device. It will control pumps and heat modules, for example.
Okay, perfect, guys. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on such a short notice. And thank you for the presentation. So we can go straight to the first question.
Yes, thank you.
The question is about how we can responsibly and accurately report our project in media and inform the public about the science we are doing. And we all know that human practices or putting our project out there is a huge part of iGEM in general and also of our projects. I researched all of your teams, and I noticed that almost every single one of us has Instagram or YouTube channel. And of course, all of us need to design the wiki, and we need to talk about our project. Usually we write some articles to newspapers, or we talk and give interviews. And all of this raises a question about how we should talk about science and how we should talk about our projects. And what's the most accurate and responsible way to talk about our project. So maybe you could share your experiences or your thoughts about that. And each team will get 5 minutes to answer this question, starting again with DTU, Denmark. So Philippe Mohammed, what are your thoughts? Guys?
Okay. Well, it's always a way of...
Yeah, we have you.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear us? It's always a way of...
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Wait. It's always a way of between, being precise and concise in what you're saying, and being appealing to people. I think you can do both, but it's really hard to do both. So I think you need to prioritize, and it really depends on your audience. I mean, you need to know your audience in order to determine which are the best way to to report to the people you're targeting. But yeah, I would say something like scientific media, reaching out to those, trying to get some articles in that can actually explain what you're doing in a sober way, is a good way to spread, reliable information about what you're doing, especially if it's a science-based newspaper or magazine. Then you have editors that sort of knows, at least broadly, and that would be a huge advantage when sort of do a bullshit check, basically. The thing is, those articles and those sort of magazines are not always the best way to reach out to the public. It's not always that the public actually reads those sort of articles, the very precise articles. So you might consider also doing some broad news articles instead. But when you do that, there's always the possibility of getting misinterpreted. So yeah, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I think, like you accurately say, I think it comes down to control. The more control you have of the content and of the chains that you're going by. So if you're going through a journalist, you should preferably get something like, make sure that what you told the journalist is actually also in the article, and there's no misconceptions. So I think the more control you can have of either the platform that you're using or the media, the better. And yeah, as much that you cannot have enough of it, I think. Also you could get, if you want accuracy, you could get people to proofread from the team of, okay, is this what we're doing? Have another member sit in to make sure that what is actually said is the correct thing, because people are prone to making mistakes. So I think that's and you should be aware of this yourself, that you're a human being and you make mistakes, and the better if you have people proofreading or correcting you once in a while, then that's a good thing.
I guess that's it. I hope it answered your question.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, sure. That's a very interesting point of view. And also, I agree that using different platforms sort of requires a lot of control. So the second one to go is the Netherlands team. So guys, what are your thoughts about this and about presenting your project?
Okay, so we have thought about this a lot because, of course, synthetic biology is quite a sensitive subject. And what we think is really important is to be honest in your intentions. So once you go out there on social media, huge platforms, you reach many people with all different backgrounds, all different perceptions. And you cannot control how they will perceive your message. So the only thing that you can do is try to be clear in what you mean and not try to sell it, not try to give a one-sided view, because that will not sound very trustworthy. And people will immediately say, oh, that's so right, or oh no, that's so against my background, against my beliefs. So try to keep it more general in first stance, and then try to convince them from their background how it would fit into their background, how your project could help them. So in that sense, be honest, be clear about your goal and your means. So what are you using? What are the disadvantages of it? What are the risks? So also, what are the advantages and what can be done by it? How it helps you? And what will help that, as the previous group also said, is try also to talk to experts, try to get a good idea of what the situation is of your end users or of your stakeholders, or of what the background is in which your application will be used, and talk to experts to get a good idea of that, so you don't give false information, you don't give a false setting, because that will again reduce your trust and they will not believe you anymore. yeah, and try to present the whole picture and how you will fit into that. And once you said that, then it will be much more trustworthy and you'll have much more effective communication and feedback as well.
So basically that like you don't have to present yourself as a position of like the scientific god. You have to try to put yourself in the position of the end user, of the people you want to talk to, and think about how they're thinking, that there's some things that you cannot change. For example, talking about synthetic biology, there's just that people that morally does not accept that. And that's something you're not going to be able to convince them about. And maybe what you can do is just offer them alternatives or just like accept it. And yeah, so you just have to be open to new possibilities also.
I think from their point instead of from your.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm glad someone mentioned honesty. That's really good to hear sometimes. I also think I totally agree with this. You should be honest about your project, and you should also sort of think about the end user. And that's a really good point to make. Thank you, Netherlands. The next team is from Germany. So Christopher, Olga, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, in our opinion, it's extremely important to, or language is extremely important when interacting with the public. So first of all, such complex topics like synthetic biology and all of our project, when talking to the public, we think it's important to not expect that everyone knows what DNA is and how it functions and so on, because what we also witness when we interact with the public is that even though many people are really educated, what they know about molecular biology and so on is often limited. So I think the best way to accurately and correctly report on our project is to break down the basics of our project to a level where everyone can understand it in a way that is still accurately, but not too much. And that way you can kind of build up from that point. You can then get more complex in what you're explaining, because then people can understand it based on the basics that you told them earlier. And we also think it's very good to directly interact with the public. So when spreading things on social media like Facebook, Twitter, and so on, people can often maybe misunderstand things because you're limited in what you can say, and it's maybe better to have a presentation, and then you have a discussion round afterwards where people can directly talk to you, where they can ask you questions directly if they didn't understand something. And I think it's also very important to not only tell people something, but to also listen to try to figure out what are they do they fear synthetic biology for any reason, or are they afraid of something? And then you can understand and try to present your project or the whole synthetic biology thing in a way that might make it clear to people that, okay, you don't have to be afraid, or you don't have to fear something. So it's important to not only try to I think we shouldn't try to sell our project, because that's not what the interaction with the public is about. But therefore, it's also very important to listen to what the public wants to know, or where they are not really well informed, and then you can build your strategy on how to interact with the public based on that. And also try to think it's important to break it down to a level that everyone can understand it in the simplest form possible. And I think that way you don't overload people with information, and you make sure that things are not understood in the wrong way or something like that.
Yeah, that's the important thing. If somebody has some kind of input that is not the way you intended it to be, that's a problem. And we also look into if somebody has a question, so that we can answer this question in the way we can. I mean, there are a few questions nobody can really answer in our field of research right now, but we want to present the information we have in such a way that everybody understands it. And if they have questions, we also want to answer these questions really respectively and responsibly, because I mean, it's a, yeah, I mean, we were always told it's quite, oh, what's this called again? It's a sci-fi project, basically. So we need to also respond to criticism in a certain way, because we were approached by people who are just, you know,
kind of against it.
Yeah, they're
without
quite
no
against
real
it.
reason or no.
Yeah, because and that's also, yeah, I think that's in the. We also need to look into the language we're using, but I think that's in a third question. So we're going to talk about this later. We cannot hear you. I'm sorry.
There. Sorry about that. So basically, again, be honest, respond to criticism, talk to people, and try to explain your point of view and why you're doing what you're doing. And I think that's a great point of view. The next thing to talk about this is from Israel. So Yehuda Noah, do you have anything to say about this?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. What the other teams said was very interesting. And the question to responsibility and the accuracy. It seems that most of the teams, and us included, are very drawn to the accuracy as scientists. We want the most accurate answer. We want to know the truth. We want to express the truth. And of course, that leads us to ethical discussions regarding the understand the approach that does description of our project. But since the other teams described that problem fairly well, we'd like to talk more about the responsibility that we feel. It is our understanding, and when we look at the world, that the difference between those who know science chasm between the two of us and those who do not know science are getting more and more afraid of the progress that we're so excited about. And our ongoing excitement...
Israel, we keep losing you.
We could have a better connection. What I'm saying is that our excitement and our enthusiasm for science does not, unfortunately, help them overcome this fear that they feel towards this scientific progress, and especially in the areas that are more on the edge, whether it's creating new amino acids or developing new genetically engineered systems. And I think our responsibility before we are so careful to be accurate is to make sure we're not doing damage to this ever-growing chasm between us and the community. So first responsibility, then accuracy. Because if we serve to create a bigger difference between these two groups, no matter how far we progress accurately, difference in the world. They don't accept it as long as they can't utilize it. So we really need to focus on responsibility before accuracy, while acknowledging that both are very important.
Okay. Do you have anything more to add?
No, we're good. That was our answer.
Okay. Sorry, I'm slightly losing your connection. I don't know why. But yeah, thank you for this. I'm muted. So yeah, I agree about that as well. And I hope there is some sort of solution to this kind of thing, because yeah, it's true that we can notice that there is a lot of argument against synthetic biology and in general, because people don't understand it or are afraid of it, and we're not doing a very good job with actually informing the public and being responsible about how we do everything. So next team to talk is from Grenoble, I think we have left. So do you have anything to add there?
Yes, I couldn't agree more about what also have been said about synthetic biology. It's not that new field, but we know nowadays that the application of that field are huge. In fact, this innovative stuff shouldn't afraid anymore. We have to inform people that basically we can work with bacteria, because when we are talking about this to non-informed people, they just say something like, wow, it's a dangerous thing. People aren't always protocols, and that there are biosafety skills that we have to respect in the lab and outside. Second point, as creators, as innovative people, we have to take care about what we are doing on the lab and outside when it's needed. Just as our case, for example, because basically we will use bacteria outside. Any biological leak shouldn't occur, because it can cause problems. It can be bad. It can cause some bad press article. We create kind of GMOs, and people aren't always well informed that much about the possibilities offered by these things. We have to communicate about this, and that's why we have organized 2 vulgarization events yet. Last point, on data collection. We have to take data collection to do some epidemiological studies. And to these studies, we have to be sure that every data is collected are anonymous. And when we will spread it to the good people, the good authorities, we have to be sure that any sensible information will leak, basically.
Okay. Thank you for this. Do you have anything more to add? So you have a bit more time if you want.
No, thanks.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you everyone for these statements. And now I would open the discussion. So if you have anything to add, anything to argue, or just some idea that you want to share with the rest of us, please write to the chat. If anyone has something to say or respond to any of the other team's statements. Otherwise, I really do agree with all of your statements. It's actually kind of interesting. Oh, okay. DTU has something to say?
2 points. The thing is, from the German team, what team is it again? I didn't hear.
Bielefeld.
Bielefeld. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
That makes sense.
Yes. All right. Yeah. About not selling your project, and then again in the next turn saying that you have to listen to what the public wants, and as soon as you start talking about wants, and then you start talking about demand, and that is selling. So I don't understand how that fits in, and why it's so bad to sell stuff. It's not, of course, you're not marketing it as a financial thing, but you have a good idea and you want to pitch it and you want to tell people how great it is, and you want to kind of rise from all the noise that's in the background of data and ideas. So why is it such a bad thing to sell an idea?
Okay, thank you.
That's my question to Bielefeld.
Okay, guys, do you want to?
Then I have another question. Perhaps I could wait with that one.
Let's get Christopher's and Olga response, and then you can ask the second question. Guys, do you have a response to that?
So of course you have to present your idea and your goals and where you want to take a project. Of course, that's what you do when you reach out to the public. You tell them this is a cool application which we can use to solve a certain problem, and this is the steps that we have to take, and this is where we think social responsibility is important. What I mean with selling is more that if if you focus too much on your project and how great it is and how cool it is and what kind of great solution it can be, I think people feel like that you might not be honest with them, because then they might feel that you're simply trying to sell something. When reaching out to the public, I think that it's important that you understand that people are often like anxious about new technologies, about new emerging technologies such as synthetic biology. And therefore, it's, I think, really important to not overdo this selling kind of presentation, but to more also kind of be open to what the public has to say, to more kind of create your presentation in a way that you can also listen to what the people have to say and what their fears are and what they think about it. That way you can create more kind of a discussion instead of telling people, okay, this is how we do it, done. So it should be more an interaction instead of simply a pitch of your idea. That's what I meant with you shouldn't sell your idea. Of course you sell your idea in a way, but it shouldn't be like a marketing presentation. It should be open for discussion, open for a lot of questions, open for ideas from the public and so on.
I think we define selling as you want everybody to accept your project and really stand behind it, but that will never happen. And that's how we define selling. I mean, that we want to inform the public, that's clear. Maybe it's just our definition of selling that is not coming, didn't become clear.
It shouldn't be about convincing people of how great your idea is. It should be about reaching out to the people and also accepting that some people, even though you informed them well, might be still against your project and might be say, okay, it would be great to have a solution for a certain problem, but we don't want to use genetically engineered organisms for it or something.
And to be in a point where you also can accept that. That's the thing we want to be. I mean, inform everybody, but also accept that not everybody will be has the same opinion as us, and accept that and take this information and maybe the criticism and work with that also. I mean, that's the idea of developing a project in a certain way we want to adapt for us. I hope we could answer your question.
Thank you, guys. DTU, is this enough of an answer for you? Can we get Denmark back on?
Okay.
Did it answer your question?
Yeah,
that's
yes.
Hopefully.
Are we on? Yeah.
Yeah, now you're on. I can hear you and see you. Perfect.
Quite well. Quite well, and responded to our question.
Yeah, there's a second question.
Yeah. So the second question is on. So these questions pertains mostly to communicating with the public, and then I start wondering about responsibility. Of course, we have a task of being responsible, as we have this great power of the synthetic biology, and it's a really great tool to do a lot of wonderful things, but also you could use it in the opposite direction. So I was not sure about the Technion response on the responsibility. So wouldn't you, of course you have to be, how could you measure this responsibility in you communicating with the public? Would you address questions relating to responsibility of science, or is the responsibility on you to be accurate about your results, or what you're doing and what intention you have for it? I was not quite sure about how the responsibility would fit in.
Okay, thank you for the question, guys. Let's give it to the Israel team. Yehuda Noah, do you have a reaction to that?
Yes, Mohammed, it's an excellent question. We didn't get into the details specifically because they really change between climate and between which subject is being discussed. But it truly is the question to ask, because
That's not a lot of thing.
Yeah.
I think we lost you, Israel, again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Sorry. What I was saying is that it's important to know what the fear is in the specific public you are addressing, and then to make sure you are not
And you're down again.
this is difficult. Largely, I'd be happy to also write an answer if it's hard to hear us, but
we keep sort of losing you. Maybe you can write the answer and I can read it after you send it in.
Yeah, so we'll send it.
And I lost you again.
That'll be great. We'll write.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Sorry about this. So does anyone else has another question or something to add to this part of the discussion? If not, we can wrap this part of the question. I will read out whatever the Israel has to say after they type it in. And we can slowly move to the second question, perhaps, if nobody else has something to add. So in this question, we talked a lot about our own responsibility, about honesty, and about how to present our project. And in the second question, I think it's another way of thinking about it a little bit, and it's who do we want to actually report our science to? Do we want to report to other iGEM teams? Because that's probably the focus of the wiki in a way. Do we want to report to journalists? Do we want to report to the general public? What's actually the niche in which we want to present our project? And you can take it and answer it however you want, but also if you already struggled with this during your project, it would be nice to hear if you already thought about it or did something around this kind of presenting during your project. I think it would be interesting to hear for the rest of us. So I think DTU could start again, if you have something to say about this. I can't hear you.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
No, I can.
We're thinking, why limit yourself to one sort of audience? I mean, we can both hit iGEM teams and target journalists and target the general public if we just do it right. I think the way we've done it so far is by dedicating specific media to specific groups. Twitter, for instance, is a really good way to communicate internally between iGEM teams. The same with the wiki. Of course, the wiki can be used to target the general public as well, and so can Facebook and media like journalists. Of course, then you will have to write a press release. So there are a lot of different media to use, and I think you can target all of the different groups you want to target if you just like dedicate one media to one group.
I would say that what we agree on is definitely that the general public would be a great target. That's the ideal target for us. So the choice is really in how do we actually get to the general public? How do we make the general public ignite this interest of our project, or generally the science and the synth bio field integrate general public? So we of course have this wiki. We have to report our data through to mainly other iGEM teams or the judges at the Jamboree. But we also feel that we have a great task before us in actually appealing to the public and making them understand, or trying to sell, if I may use that word, the wonders of this work. Just this, like we a group of students doing something that's actually contributing to a better world, and we're using our skills, what we have learned so far in life and in the university setting, to do this. And we are approaching a real problem, not just something that's obscure and no one can relate to, but something that the everyday guy or woman or child would understand. Hey, there's a problem. People are getting bit by snakes. How do we know what snake it is if it's so quick and they look like each other and they have different antivenoms to use? So of course we can use science to actually solve this issue for us. So if we try to make our outreach platform and our human practice, so to speak, as relatable as possible using graphical means. So we really want to make videos, cartoons, like simple stuff, so people can in a split second decide, hey, is that content I want to look at or no? If they look at a block of text, then it's not that appealing. That if they're looking at an image and they can make the choice whether or not to proceed with the content or not. So yeah, and journalists and all that, that's just a means to get into the general public meeting.
Yeah,
and
it shouldn't be a target in itself to tag a journalist. It should be a way of explaining your project to a broad audience. Regarding our niche, it's kind of hard to tell actually what our specific niche is. But of course, there are always a lot of niches that we can hit. But what we want to do is not to hit one specific niche. Actually, we want to get the message out about our snake project to a broad audience, so we can get an attention to this neglected disease.
I thought about a niche that I would think is really interesting. So people have a tendency, especially in the younger, in the teenage years, to look at the world and think, hey, what the hell is this? This is not working out as it should. And then they get involved in these NGOs and involved in helping other people. So that's really the niche that I would be very interested in targeting, especially because those people would have I think that the challenge for them would be that they are not seeing science as a means of improving society, that they think that it's something different, it's for the nerds. But I wanna appeal to those people to say, hey, no, science is actually a means of improving society. You could do something, and all this eagerness to do it, you can translate it into your studies, and it will make everything purposeful for you. And you will already in your studies be able to contribute through iGEM, for instance, or other projects.
Okay,
that's the niche I would love to target. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you for this answer. I'm glad someone mentioned making videos in social media, because it's something our team is also doing a little bit. Next answer is going to be from the Netherlands team. So guys, what are your thoughts on niche and who to present our project to?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, that this has no easy answer, because the iGEM project in general forces us to try to reach to everyone, and we do have to have scientific answers for the other iGEM teams and the judges, but we also have to do work to present our project to the general public. In that way, we have to do everything that is in our hand. So there's not like just one answer. And the other answer I can come up with is the end user of our technology. But the thing is, like, for example, in our technology that we are targeting the tropical diseases, we cannot get in contact with our real end users. The only thing we can do is speculate, and yeah, so that's what I'm going to do now. Basically, if you want to target a public about a new technology, you need to offer a benefit. And also, yeah, you need to tell them, like, hey, this is good for you, but not just telling it, like showing it. In that way, when you want to target a public, a good idea would be to do an ethical committee, because of course you cannot explain the technology to all the populations you want to target. But you can just, if you want it to be accepted by the community, you can gather a sample of this community, explain to them that, hey, this is good, these are the risks, these are the advantages, the disadvantages, and then they will be able to explain to their community on their own words, and if they accept it, the new technology. And on the part of the developing a technology, that would be our niche. On the iGEM part, of course, it's just the general public and the other iGEM things, but it's everything in the same place.
Yeah, so basically what Jose said, you want to focus on the end users, you really want to get in there, and you want to find out what they are facing and what they think is good about such a product and what they're still facing or what's lacking for the current diagnostics, for example. So what you can do is then go to the end user, which is kind of hard in our case, but you can still reach them through organizations such as NGOs, which was also mentioned by the previous group. You can use journals that are related to the occupations, or for example, the journal for the Doctors Without Borders. We talked to them as well. And that's also really insightful, not only for you to present it and to get food, to get hold in that area of the end users who are in the end going to use your detection system, but you're also getting feedback on what they are facing that you can use to improve your iGEM ID again. So that's something really convenient. That's also something that increases the value of your product on both ends. So that's really interesting. So yeah, that's exactly against the major platforms and the general public view, because on that side, that's a whole different stakeholder. That's the people who you want to accept your product. So you are able to spread the idea of synthetic biology. You want to increase the acceptance. You want to increase the understanding of what the possibilities are. So it becomes more and more accessible to people. But yeah, that's a whole different aim, and you should also keep it in mind when communicating as well. But for us, yeah, of course, it's more interesting to see what the end users or the different stakeholders involved in using your product. So yeah, that's what we reach out to.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. The next team would be again Bielefeld from Germany to talk about this. Guys, do you have a statement to make, or you have 5 minutes?
Yeah, sure. So in our opinion, it's the final goal should always be to reach out to the general public to figure out what their opinion is, but also to figure out what the social implications of your project are. So how does your project affect general public? How might it affect it in a positive way, but maybe also in a negative way? But to get there, we think it's you have to interact with other iGEM teams, and so it depends on kind of in which state of your project you are. So I think in the early stages of the project, most teams, they mainly interact with other iGEM teams to get like feedback from within the community, to kind of finalize their project, and also of course feedback from experts. But as soon as the project kind of is finalized and what it is all about, it's the focus shifts towards more like interacting with the journalists and with the general public, and also maybe as experts like ethicists and so on to see what are the social implications of our project. How can we make sure that our project is applied in a safe way, in a responsible way? And yeah, I think this is also kind of what we did. In the beginning, we mainly interacted with some experts, other iGEM teams to kind of finalize our project. During the German meetup and also the European iGEM meetup, we got a lot of feedback from other teams, which was really cool. So this kind of helped to finalize our project. And now we are like focusing more on the interaction with the general public and experts that are not within the field of synthetic biology to kind of figure out what are the social implications, and so on, to make sure that our project is, because it is kind of like you said, so for some people it sounds like science fiction, because it is extremely important to talk about ethics of our project and to see what people think of it. Think about it and how we can make sure that there's some acceptance, but also it's applied in a safe and responsible way.
And I mean, just looking at the middle criteria in iGEM itself, I think they want us to reach out also to other iGEM teams and to journalists and the general public, and of course people who are in the field of work you're looking into. But I think that's also the opinion of our team, and I need to thank Denmark for saying this. We also want to show the general people or the the whole community around us that science is cool. Science is very something you can work at and you can look into, and it's just always interesting, depending, of course, on your interest and everything you look into. And we want to show it also to the public. So that's one reason we are reaching out to the general public and showing them science can be interesting. Science is not just people sitting in a lab 24/7 in the darkness and doing something nobody knows about. I mean, I think that's also something we need to look into, just not keeping just to ourselves in this community, but also reaching out, showing people what could be done, and interesting people, and many ideas we can develop here in the iGEM community itself. Because I think nobody of us, depending on the project we are working on, later on we will never maybe get the funding to do so, and doing it now and reaching out, I think that's quite important.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for this. I think it was really interesting. Next is again the Israel team. So should we try if you have a connection that will hold 5 minutes? Yehuda, do you have something to say about this?
Yes, I hope you can see, you can hear me. So also our niche is the general public. I think that, as you just said, there is a lot of fear around the field of.
And we lost you again.
Let us try something. If we disconnect, can again?
Yeah, you can connect again. Yeah, we can skip to the Grenoble team and give you a space a little bit later when you try to fix your connection.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hope Yehuda and Noah will be able to fix their connection, and we can go to the Grenoble team to tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Okay.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
So I was saying that we want to reach a large audience. That means that we have to make an effort to be as concise and clear about the field. We have also reached people by medias to inform a large audience about our work. And as previously said, we organize events that can touch all kinds of public, and we want to try to be active on social medias to present our lab work once again. We have also planned an ethical conference based on the biological innovation, and this will occur next month. We want to make people trust our project without any fear. To reach that possibility, we have to be honest on what we are doing, because when there are secrets, fear and doubt can emerge. We want also to speak with other iGEM team, because it's to my opinion, it's a community project. We want to work with other team, and to that we have to fulfill our wiki well. And as we work on the diagnostic field, we have to talk about the disease we want to detect, because there's disease, and not everybody are informed that diagnostic can't always be possible when money is problematic. So we have to talk about several points to make our our project clear. Can't hear you.
All right. Thank you. Let's see if Israel can now have a stable connection. Okay, guys, let's try this.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Great. So our niche is also the general public. So as you just said, there's a lot of fear around the field of genetic engineering, and we want to present the public our project and the benefits of our project, and to make them understand that this can be good for them. And So we want to publish articles that explain our general idea, because this is really hard to explain for people that are not in the field. Our project, there's a lot of details that they can't understand, but we want to present our general idea, and hopefully they will understand that the benefits of our project. And maybe you can also.
Yeah, I'm excited that we can hear each other.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say I very much agree with what Olga said. We feel the same way, that science is so exciting and such an opportunity for everyone. But this chasm, this difference between the two populations, makes it difficult for us to express our love without at the same time creating more fear. And that's why we're really aiming to the general public. Even though our project is very scientific, we've made the conscious decision of targeting a public that classically wouldn't be targeted for this kind of project, to show that it is possible to reach out to the general community. It is possible to bring very complex ideas and present them in a way that are accessible and interesting and arouse curiosity for everyone. And that's what we really hope to do in this project.
Okay, thank you guys. That was all the teams talking. So I can open the discussion again. If anyone has something to add or something to ask, I'm very glad that we can now talk to Israel without interruptions. So please ask questions if you have any. I think each of you made some excellent points on this. So does anyone have something to add or something to ask the other teams while we have the chance?
Hello?
Yes, Mark?
Yeah, I want to talk about a way of between, informing the public about the good sides of our project, but also the risks, because there are huge risks associated with synthetic biology. Not just the single projects we're doing, but the field in itself is quite risky. When you look at the top 10 most dangerous existential threats we have of this millennium, synthetic biology ranks as #1. And that's a good reason for that. Because biosecurity-wise, synthetic biology potentially enables us to produce pathogenic bacteria out of basically nowhere. And by democratizing biology in the way that synthetic biology is doing, by making it so easy to manipulate DNA, we might, dumb it down to a level where any sort of terrorist can grow its own E. coli bacteria and transform it with some genes from all sorts of pathogenic strains that will actually make a simple E. coli bacteria into a lethal weapon. And this sort of fear, I think we need to address. But how do we address it without scaring off people? How do we tell people that we need more information and more control of synthetic biology, but at the same time keep the optimism for synthetic biology and explain all the good things that synthetic biology can contribute? Yeah, so that's an open question. It's not for any particular team.
Okay, but I think the Netherlands would like to answer. So can we give them a word?
Yeah, we'd like to answer in the fear thing that, I see it like it's not something you can control, but on the other hand, it will come with time. As soon as you show the benefits, and it's like a cleaner energy and a cleaner way of producing stuff and a cleaner technology than petrol-based, people will start seeing the benefits, and all those fears will fade away because, you can, of course, produce pathogenic bacteria, but why would you? And everyone can produce bombs out of their phone. It's quite simple, but almost nobody use it. Nobody do it, and everyone use their phones, and they are not scared, and they are not saying that phones should be banned. It's just because basically, you can educate people so they are not crazy people accessing synthetic biology, because basically there's not going to be that many crazy people out there. That's my opinion. And like the fear thing, it will come with time, but you cannot force it, because many people just think that it's against morality. As it once happened that they thought it was against morality to open a body to study the inside of the human body. But that just takes time.
Yeah, it's just synthetic biology is a very powerful tool. And that's also with great opportunities that come great risks, like nuclear power, for example. But it's then again, like what you said previously, it's then especially important to be clear about how you take those risks into account and that you face them and accept them, but also try to adapt your tool in such a way that you overcome them or that you take it into account. And then that fear should be reasoned, and then it also becomes much more easy for the general public to understand what the situation is, to understand what the risks are, to still find it dangerous, but still not be fearful because it's less unknown. And then you don't have to go into all the details of the mechanics and stuff, but as long as you are clear about what your intentions are, what the risks are, and what steps you still need to take before you bring it out to the market, then it should be reduced.
Okay, thank you guys.
So it's not all about fear. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the answer. And I believe Sabitek from Germany also has something to say to that. So off to Christopher and Olga.
Yeah, so I see it the same way. I mean, to be sure of the risk of your own project, that's always good. But I don't think we need to really put ourselves in a corner that we need to answer every possible risk or question everybody has about the whole subject of synthetic biology, because I think we are not in a position to do so. We are specifically looking into the risk of our own projects, and it's understandable if somebody has a question about that, but I don't think we even can touch the surface of every risk synthetic biology can bring as a whole concept. I mean, that's quite difficult to answer. And even if somebody asks you, I think also what is good to say and what should be in everybody's mind is to say, I don't really know. That's a good question, and I will look into it. I think that's sometimes better to say you don't know about a specific thing than to make something up.
I think it's also important to emphasize how much iGEM has contributed to like biosafety. I mean, every year a couple of teams create or implement new biosafety systems that ensure that the organisms that we work with cannot escape the designated environment. And so in my opinion, it's important to find a middle way between exploring new possibilities, finding out cool things that we can do with synthetic biology, but also being aware of the risks and possible dangers of synthetic biology. And I think we definitely shouldn't. We should always care about it, but we shouldn't necessarily make it stop our work. We should always like find a way how we can test new possibilities, new applications in a safe way. And I think this is how we can ensure that synthetic biology can solve many of our current challenges that we are facing in a safe way by acknowledging that there is a risk and from early on thinking about ways how we can ensure that this risk is minimized. And then we can fully explore the applications in a safe way.
So taking responsibility for your own project, but don't necessarily take responsibility for everything that has been done in synthetic biology that might be bad, because we are just students, we're learning ourselves, and as I said, to get into this broad subject of responsibility in synthetic biology is could be quite harmful.
Okay, thank you guys. And I guess this question brings out a lot of answers. So we also have interest from the Israel team. to say something. So off to Yehuda and Noah.
Hi. We agree with what was said, especially with regards to not taking responsibility upon ourselves greater than what is the iGEM. But regarding the question, if we understand it correctly in a little bit of a larger context of how we're to deal with synthetic biology and the fact that it is quite dangerous in reality, I think we're a little bit more pessimistic here. I think that in reality, almost anything humanity has ever created has been used at some point to cause great harm to people. And there will be bad people who use it, and we have to be prepared for that. That being said, the example of nuclear power. Nuclear power is still very much opposed by a large amount of people because of its catastrophic power. While we know that nuclear reactors are very different from nuclear weapons, they still are associated just by virtue of their name. So I do think that we need to remain aware and very much on the ball regarding the damage that may be done with synthetic biology, and always have it in the back of our minds that we are contending against that and to separate ourselves from that at all times and not just ignore it or hope that it goes away, because it will become an issue sooner or later in reality, in our opinion.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have something to say to the question, or I have something else to talk about regarding this? If not, I guess we can close this question. We now went to two of the questions, and as you know, we sent you 3 questions yesterday. But since we wanted to have it around for an hour, we are now want to ask if you want to go to the 3rd question, which is regarding media and language to use during talking about your project. So if you want, we can go to the 3rd question as well. If you don't, we can stop it here. Depends on you. What do you guys think? Maybe you can write to the chat or just raise your hand or something if you want to continue. Okay, I guess nobody wants to continue, then we can end it here. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think it was really interesting to hear your statements and hear about what you're doing in your project regarding ethics and what sort of opinion you have about these different topics. So thanks a lot for joining us here today, and I hope to see you in Boston, and I hope to see you soon. And thank you again. Okay, see you and goodbye.